Creation in Death, Book 25 of my Eve Dallas In Death series. If you've missed previous versions, In Death Deluise book series. The first time I did them, I did plot reviews. Now we are doing character spoilerizations. Just talking characters as much as possible. It does get into plot a little bit, but we're going to go through the book and just read some quotes. And welcome to the Deluise book series. I'm Christina Carrias, Tina. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy smanchy stuff going on here. And I've got a co-host. So this is Creation in Death. Eve is a lieutenant in the New York City Police and Security Department. Rourke is her husband. He's the richest guy in the world. Somerset is the major domo. Peabody is her work partner. McNabb is Peabody's life partner, but he's also detective in EDD. Feeney is her former mentor and now captain of EDD. Mira is the department shrink. Whitney is her boss. Tibble is the bigger boss. We have Baxter and Trueheart, people that work for her in her division. We have Nadine, the newspaper reporter and TV show host for now. That we're up to that part. Trina is the hairdresser. Eve is petrified of Trina. She's a New York City Police and Security Department person, and she takes down chemi heads in dark alleys, but she's afraid of a hairdresser. But she does it anyway. In future, she'll be saving Trina and she'll get better with Trina. But she's like, Trina, why Trina? Why does Trina have to come over? She's going to put goop on my face. What? What's the matter, Miss Smokey? So anyways, and Mavis. Mavis is currently a rock star who's with child, and Leonardo is her husband, and he's a fashion designer. And then we have Miss Smokey over here, who's having an issue with me doing a video. She doesn't want me to do a video. She wants me to pay attention to her. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Come here. Come here. Do you want me to pay attention to you? Or do you want to itch and complain? You want to itch and complain. Where's the thing? So anyways, sorry for the delay. We have a serial killer, and it's a serial killer from the past that's come back to Eve. It was a guy that she wasn't a main player back in the day, but now she's the player. Every once in a while, Eve thought life was really worth living. Here she was, stretched out in a double-wide sleep chair, watching a vid. There was plenty of action in the vid. She liked watching stuff blow up, and the plotline meant she didn't have to actually think. She could just watch. She had popcorn drowned in butter and salt. The fat cat stretched across her feet, keeping them nice and warm. She had the day off, which meant she could sleep until she woke up, then veg until she grew mo. Best of all, she had Rourke cozied up in the chair beside her. Since her husband had complained after one handful that the popcorn was disgusting, she had the whole bowl to herself. Get some Orville Redenbacher out. Really, it didn't matter. Then again, maybe it did. Would, as she planned to nail her husband like an airjack when the vid was over. Her version of a double feature. Iced, she said after a mid-air collision of a tourist tram and an air blimp. Totally iced. Would you stop? Would you seriously stop? Cats can see red. She wants this. So anyways, I thought the storyline would appeal to you. There is no storyline. She took another handful of popcorn. That what appeals to me. It's just some dialogue stitching explosions together. There was full, brief frontal nudity. Yeah, but that was for you and those of your ilk. She flicked a glance at him. On-screen pedestrians ran screaming from falling wreckage. He was so damn gorgeous in anyone's ilk. Face sculptured, talented gods on a really good day. Strong bones lying the excellent foundation under that Irish white skin. She goes on, they talk about the film. Obviously caught up, Rock dug into the popcorn, then immediately pulled his hand out and scowled at his fingers. Why don't you just dump salt into melted butter and eat that? The corn makes a nice vehicle for it. And what's the matter? You get your pretty hands messy? Hey! She laughed, set down the bowl aside. It would be safe, she knew, and even Galahad, the cat, wouldn't eat it her way. She poked her finger hard into Rourke's ribs until she was on top of him. Maybe they just have a sneak preview of tonight's second feature. Going to pay for that one, pal. How much? It's going to be the installment plan. I figure we'll start two birds, one ass about the payment. That's interesting, going to be hot stuff. And then her signal pulls, and her lieutenant, her Whitney calls her, and she's like, "I've got the day off," and he's like, "Not anymore. You'll know when you get to the scene." Of course, she gets to the scene, and life changes. But I pulled this out. It's part of the plot. I shouldn't even put it in here. But my partner she goes to the scene of the car. Kim, I got cat hair all over me. My partner and I were on patrol and observed what appeared to be a robbery in progress. We pursued a male individual into the park. The suspect headed in an easterly direction. We were unable to apprehend. The suspect had considerable lead. My partner and I split up, intending to cut off the subject, at which time I discovered the victim. I called my partner, then notified Whitney. Notifying the commander isn't procedure, Officer Newkirk. No, sir. I felt in these circumstances that notification was not only warranted but necessary. Why? His father was on the job, and he knew what he saw. So we'll get past that. So after they finish with the crime scene, they're heading back to the vehicle. Why aren't you home? What? And miss the entertainment? Hello, Peabody. Hey, she managed to smile even though her cheeks felt like a couple of slabs of ice. You've been down here the whole time? Nearly. I did wander off, and he gives both Peabody and Eve coffee, and that he bought at a vendor. And later on, in our not so distant future, I don't know, about another 10 books or so, the auto chef in her car will have real coffee, will have Rourke's coffee. And why doesn't Rourke push his coffee at these other vendors too? Don't know why. It's coffee. It's hot coffee. Should throw you out a bit. Very. Peabody, track down contact info on the Vic's next of kin. And Eve, Rourke recognizes the name of the victim, and she's an employee of his, and that's part of the plot line. But, then Eve has to go talk to Feeney. He'd been her trainer, her teacher, her partner. He was, though neither of them spoke of it, the man who stood as a father in ways that mattered. He had plucked her out of the pack when she'd still be in uniform and made her his. She never asked Feeney what he'd seen that persuaded him to take on a green uniform. She'd only known that by doing so he'd made all the difference. She'd have been a good cop without him. She'd have made detective through her own need, dedication, and aptitude, and maybe eventually she'd have held rank she held now. But she wouldn't have been the same cop without him. When he earned his bars, he requested EDD. E-work had always been his specialty and passion, as the request for electronic division was mutual. What is going on? She remembered she'd been just a little annoyed he'd moved out of homicide, and for the first few months she missed him, seeing him, working with him, talking to him every day like she'd missed her own hand. She could have left this for morning, at least at a decent hour of the morning, but she knew had their positions been reversed, she'd want this knock on the door. She'd have been damn pissed if she didn't get the knock. When he answered, the face was sleep rumpled, making it more lived in than usual. His hair, gingery rubbing brush mixed with the silhouette stand. I can't get rid of this hair. Ah, as if the air around him had suddenly ionized. And while he might have been wearing a tattered robe in the surprising color of purple, his eyes were all cop. Who died? Need to talk to you about that, Eve told them. More about the how than the who. Well, better come in. Wife's asleep. Let's go in the kitchen. Need coffee. It was a homey place lived in, Eve thought, like JC had been. If you add another decade or two, Feeney's kids had grown up and they were grandkids now. Eve was never quite sure of the number, but there was a good-sized eating area off the kitchen with a long table to accommodate the lot of them. Caught a case. Vickers female brunette, late 20s, found naked in East River Park. Yeah, I caught the report on screen. And then he tells her, then she spills the extra plot details. And he gets it. Spontaneously, he gets it. And he's like, how long, Eve? How long? She says, he's like, how long? And she tells him. So anyways, that was the Feeney thing. So let's skip ahead. I could read the whole book. Then they're back at Central. When the doors opened, Eve stepped off with Rourke, then turned a finger at Peabody's sulky face. That hour starts now. Peabody, Rourke waited until the door closed. You can use an hour yourself. I could use coffee more. And food. If you start nagging me about eating and sleeping, I'm booting you off my team. If I didn't nag you about eating and sleeping, you'd do precious little of either. What's in your auto, chef? Coffee. And later on, in a not so distant 10 or 20 books from now, her auto chef will be upgraded and it will have full gourmet meals in it, including the absolute necessities on life. Pizza and cheeseburgers and french fries. But not till later. So Rourke goes off to buy food. Gotta do the case. I love these little things. I've had these for like 20 years. I just discovered, like, you know what? I could use these. So I'll start the missing persons run, he said. Our civilian would be a good one to handle the real estate search. He would. Why don't you get him on that? I'm going to swing over to the lab to bribe or threaten Dickhead to push on reports. She glanced over, saw that Rourke was already working with McNabb to set up data and communication centers. I'm just going to have a word with the civilian first. Need a minute. What can I do for you? Feeney's got work for you. He'll fill you in. I'm heading out with Peabody. I just want... Don't go buying stuff. Such as e-toys, new furniture, catered lunches, dancing girls, whatever. You're not here to supply the NYPSD. What if I get hungry, feel the urge to dance? Suppress it. And don't expect me to kiss you goodbye. It makes us look married. Very well, Lieutenant. I'll do my best to suppress all my urges. Well, then she's walking out with Peabody. It's all one, Eve says. One case with a lot of pieces. Arms, Peabody said after a minute. It's more like arms, like an octopus. A case is an octopus. It's got all these tentacles, all these arms, but there's only one head. You get the head, you get it all. Okay, that's not bad. The case is an octopus. And okay, maybe you can't get to the head, not at first, but you can get a good hold on those tentacles then. I get it, Peabody. Because she now had an image of a giant octopus swimming in her head. And her link interrupts. She's trying to like, Peabody, just cut it, Peabody. Just stop. And her link beeps. Nadine, media conference you as department spokesperson. I know you love that one. I'm primary. I got that. Nadine's cat eyes were sharp and searching. But what gives this one juice? A dead woman in the park. Identity yet to be given. I'll give her name at the conference. Give me a hint. Celebrity, no hints. Come on, be a pal. The trouble was they were pals. Moreover, Nadine could be trusted. And at that moment, Nadine had plenty of juice of her own. She could even use... You've got to want to come into the media conference, Nadine. I've got a conflict. Just... You're going to want to come in, and then when it wraps up, you're going to find your way to my office. Offering me a one-on-one after a media announcement takes off the shine, Dallas. You're not getting a one-on-one. Just you, just me, no camera. You're going to want to do this, Nadine. And she cuts her off, and Peabody's like, that's a good one. Nadine has context we don't have. Nadine can find out some stuff. Then she goes, picks on Dickhead. And let's see. They go into the store to check on some products that the killer used, and Eve flashes her badge a couple of books ago. Quite a few books ago. Rourke sent a memo out to all of his branches, and all of his even new branches get this memo saying, if this person walks in your place, you are to give them 100% of your cooperation, no questions asked. And in the beginning, Eve didn't like it because she got pleasure out of harassing people. She gets pleasure out of harassing the doorman and the guy on the street and the drug dealer on the street to watch her vehicle. And we'll get through that too later on. But they discover that Peabody makes the comment, did you get a memo after the whole thing is over? Eve goes, did you get a memo about me? Yes, certainly. Is there anything else I can do about you? No. The cooperate with Lieutenant Dallas memo. Walk owns that place, Peabody said when they back in the street. You can swim in that bath oil if you want. How come you... Hold on. And then she contacts Walks and gives him a piece of her mind. Alright, so... It would take Nadine a few minutes to get up to Homicide and charm her way through any potential roadblocks to Eve's office. Nadine usually brings bakery products. Besides, Eve thought she would just wait. First, Eve needed to speak to Rock. She goes to see him, and he gives her a sub, and he says, eat. What is this? No substance in nature, I can promise you. That's why I said eat something. More to please him than out of habit, she took a bite. I need to talk to you. If you're after some answers on this chore you gave me, you won't get any. It's literally countless, blah, 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 and they talk case. So she has a one-on-one with Nadine, and for Nadine keeping quiet and enjoying the coffee in Eve's office, Nadine negotiates an appearance on Now. That's Nadine's TV show happening now. News happening now. Now. Then if this conversation happened in the real world, people would be in HR or being fired. Sheila, this is between Calendar and McNabb. They both work in like EDD. Yo, blonde boy, she called out, and McNabb glanced over his shoulder. You talking to me, D-Cup? You're liquid. Can do. You want, he said to Rourke, something to drink. Yes. Buzz or no buzz. It took Rourke a moment to translate. In that moment, he felt very old. Could use the buzz. On it. That was either caffeine or non-caffeine? So you're like absolutely packed, right? Doing the backstroke in the mega wealth? What's that like? Satisfying, he said. Betcha. With a push of her feet, she sent her chair skidding over so she could see his scream. Wow, multitudinous data with CMO searches and cross. You got a secondary recog going? This he could easily translate. I do. Checking like names and anagrams cross states. Lay it down for a spread. Go deep with ancestry and other potential connects. Smart. McNabb said you were frosty in there. Serious mining all around. Geek talk. Alright. Alright, that's for me. A little while later, the next day. Well, that set me up. Eve stretched her neck after she dragged on her old and favorite NYPSG sweatshirt. Sleep and shower sex. I ought to make that the combo required for the team. I'm afraid I don't have the time to sleep and play in the shower with Peabody and Calendar, even for the good of the team. Ha ha, funny. I'll just keep you as my personal energy booster. Gotta get back to it. Food, Rock said. Yeah, I know what you figured on. He took her hand to walk out of the bedroom with her. But disappointment is what you're doomed for, as it's not going to be pizza. I think you have prejudice against the pie. I have no pie prejudice. However, I insist on another element to your energy boost. In addition to sleep and shower sex, we're going to have steak. Red meat's hard to argue with, but I'm having fries with. She knew that it meant vegetables. She also knew that fussing over getting decent food into her would keep his mind off the case. So we do that. And let's keep going. Their conversations during the meal times are always really interesting. So good idea. I'll do the same. Give me some of that. She thought crankily he could easily get his own damn coffee, but she passed the mug to him with a scowl. No water polo. If that's a euphemism for pool sex, you're safe. All I want is a swim. He passed her the coffee, and they go for a swim in them. Rook has an underground pool in his mansion. This is a cute little conversation with Peabody. It's getting warmer. Peabody hunched her shoulders and tried to lever her body so the wild March wind didn't blow her straight into her marrow. Are you standing on the same side of the equator as I am? No, really. I think it's a couple of degrees up from yesterday. And seeing as it's March, it's practically April, so it's almost summer if you think about it. It was 80 yesterday. It was 80 yesterday. We had this stupid cold front come through. It's only here for 24 hours, but it's 40 today. It will be 80 tomorrow. I agree with Peabody. So it's almost summer if you think about it. The frigid wind has obviously damaged your brain. Eve pulled out her badge for the security counter on Carmaster's building. That being the case, I need to rethink the fact that I was about to tell you take the lead on this guy. No, I can do it. It's freezing, okay? The wind's so freaking cold, it's drilling right through my corneas into my retinas, but it hasn't into the brain. When they were cleared, Peabody stepped in, yanked her for ear flap. Do I have hat hair? You can't effectively interview with hat hair. You have hair. Be satisfied with that. Hat hair, Peabody murmured, raking her hands through it, shaking her head, fluffing it, and pushing it as they got into the elevator. Stop being a girl. Jesus, that's annoying. If I had a partner without tits, there would be no hair obsessing. Baxter would combat hat hair before an interview. Because it was arguably true, Eve scowled. He doesn't count. Baxter's a fashion hog. Total fashion hog. So then we're gonna hang out with McNabb. I think that's another. Um, Tapping the toes of his silver boots, McNabb swiveled in his chair. Just covered all public and private transpo with pictures of York and Rossi. Dallas is working the idea that our guy provided transpo. And they just hopped in? Yeah, need liquid, walk and talk. McNabb filled Rourke in as he headed to the vending, debated his choices, and opted for an orange fizzy, perhaps to match his shirt. See what's going there. Oh, um, a, a point of contention with everybody in Eve's world except Eve. All of the readers understand Eve's point, but all of the readers have their own point. And all of her bosses, Whitney, Peabody, McNabb, Feeney, to everybody in the cop world, they all agree with the readers. And they all agree with Rourke. And one day, because he does it in this other place that we'll get to in future books, one day, maybe in book 100, Eve will get into Central and her office will be redone. But Eve does not want it redone. Rourke drank his coffee. The office seemed ridiculously confining to him all at once. The piss-poor light barely seeping through her excuse for a window. The tight box formed by the walls. Have you ever considered asking for a bigger office? What for? A little breathing room might be a plus. I can breathe fine. You can't take this in, Rourke. And how would you suggest I avoid that? And they get into the case. But the biggest contention is her office chair with her visitor's chair. Her visitor's chair has a spring sticking up, and she will not replace it, because if she replaces it with something that's even remotely comfortable, in Eve's mind, the people will stay longer. So she always gives up her chair to whoever the visitor is, and then sits on the side of the desk or stands. So that's the size of her office and the visitor's chair are two big contentions. Oh, and the auto chef. We could all use an auto chef. Oh, all right. Then remember we just had this conversation about pie. There was a quick knock, then Peabody stuck her head in. She had a slice of pizza half eaten in her hand. Pizza's here. They're pouncing on it like wolves. You better get out there if you want any. Minute. And Peabody and her talked the case. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Calendar says to McNabb, fell into your lap, Blondie. Was retrieved due to my exceptional e-skills, tits. They grinned at each other, spoke of teamwork and giddy pride. He ordered a freaking deli. This is the next day. He ordered a freaking deli was all Eve could think when the food began to roll. There were trays and trays of meats, bread, cheese, side salad, sweets. Added to it, she saw 2 huge bags distinctly gold of coffee, his real coffee. And another contention with the fans and Rourke himself. He could easily upgrade Central's cafeteria to deal with superior food. He could also easily replace all of the vending machines. But Eve, as much as she fears vending, she enjoys it. She enjoys her interaction with the vending and getting hated on at vending. And she totally, absolutely believes the cops do not deserve good food while they are on the job. she totally, absolutely believes that mind frame. Because Rock could easily revamp all of the cops' eatery, provide them with decent food, decent coffee, at least decent vending. He will eventually, like I said, 20 books down the line, fix Eve's auto chef in her office to pizza, cheeseburgers, coffee, and french fries. So he feeds everybody. So, like I was just saying, I figured having somebody murdering bastard who slipped by us before back torturing, killing women under our noses is pretty much enough. No, something else is in there. It was the slip by us that clicked for him. Where's Feeney? For an answer, she shifted and kicked at the vending machine so viciously it sent off a warning alarm. Warning, warning, vandalizing or damaging this unit is a crime and punishable by a maximum of 30 days incarceration and a fine not to exceed $1,000 per offense. Warning, warning. All right then, Rock said mildly and taking her arm, pulled her down the corridor. Let's just take this to your office before we're both arrested for attempting to steal fizzies. I don't have time to. I think making time is in everyone's best interest. So they go over the case. I was gonna cut this short. Look at. Oh well. She expected Somerset to materialize in the foyer and intended to have Rook take point with him, but the minute they stepped in, she heard laughter in the parlor, and the bubbling sound of it was unmistakable. Mavis is here. This is your hour of downtime. Rock slipped Eve's coat from her shoulders. There's your hour of downtime. Rourke slipped Eve's coat from her shoulders. Difficult to find a more entertaining or distracting way to rest the brain cells than a portion of Mavis Freestone. It was tough to argue the point, but when Eve stepped to the parlor doorway, she saw Mavis had brought Trina. If that wasn't scary enough, they'd hauled the baby out for the evening. Most terrifying at the moment, the infant Bella was being held by Somerset, having her chin chucked by his skeletal fingers. I'm traumatized, Eve stated. He's not supposed to smile like that. It's against the laws of man and nature. Don't be such a hard-ass, Rourke said, gave her a little poke in the ribs. Ladies? Hey! Mavis, already glowing face, brightened. You're back. We were about to head out, but Bella wanted another Somerset smoochie, which to Eve's mind confirmed the innate oddity of babies and kids. And Bella was wearing a t-shirt that said Daddy is iced. And they have a really long conversation, and it's an awesome chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters in the book. And then it's discovered, a plot point, sorry, spoiler alert, that Trina met the guy. What did I want with the food part? Okay. So anyways. Let's see. So Eve has a conversation with Mavis the next day too that's quite touching. And that's all part of the plot line, so we'll just skip that. She talks to Nadine. I just came by a little while ago and, well, let's say overheard a few choice words in Ray's voices. The reporters in me fought with the reasonable, well-mannered individual. It was a pitched battle, and it did take a couple of minutes. Then I wandered off until I thought the coast was clear. So again, are you okay? This is a private convo. You shouldn't have private conversations in public facilities at the top of your lungs. Point well taken, Eve was forced to admit. Fine, fine. Just something we had to work out. It made me think it might be interesting to do a segment on tension in the workplace, how cops handle it. You're going to want to leave this one alone. This particular one, yes. Price of friendship. Ah, there is cat hair all over my book. Um, One day, Eve said, as she cast her eyes to heaven, one fine day you're going to be able to work a full week without inserting an image of you and McNabb having sex in my head. We'll see. That's what I'm worried about. They passed into the lobby of the elevator, flash badges on the way to the elevator. You think maybe the bloom's wearing off, that we're losing the spark? It's actually been since Wednesday, the night that we... Go no further with that sentence. Eve ordered the elevator to take them to the main gym. You can't go for 4 days without worrying about blooms and sparks? I don't know. I guess, well, no. Because 4 days is practically work week if you're not a cop. If you and Rock went a week, wouldn't you wonder? Eve was sure this had never been an issue. She only shook her head and stepped off the elevator. So you and Rock haven't gotten snuggly since we caught this? Eve stopped, turned, stared. Peabody detective, are you actually asking me if I've had sex in the last few days? Well, yes. Pull yourself together, Peabody. You have! Peabody trotted after her. I knew it, I knew it. You're practically working around the clock and you still get laid and you're young and you're younger. I mean, not that you're old, but you're young and fit and the picture of health and vitality. I'm just going to stop talking right now. Excuse me, ma'am. Could you get your tail out of my screen? That would be best. I just love it. Oh, then after their interview, thanks, Smokey. I got hair on my nose again. She sees a pickpocket. Even as she slipped on her on-duty light, she looked in the rearview mirror again. The sedan was gone. She slammed out of her vehicle in time to see the boy scramble up, start limping, run. About to hear the scream of "Stop him! He's got my bag!" over the urban sympathy of horns and curses. Son of a bee, handle it, Peabody, and set off in the pursuit of the street thief. He got his rhythm back quickly, proving she supposed someone else was younger than she. He darted, skidded, all but flew across the street down the sidewalk. He may have been younger, but her legs were longer, and she began to close the distance. He glanced over his shoulder, his eyes showing both alarm and annoyance, as he yanked down the big brown bag off his shoulder, his sulky coat, and began to swing it like a pendulum. He knocked over pedestrians like bowling pins, so that Eve had to leap, dodge, and swerve. And she catches him, and she goes, "Hey, hey, what are you doing to the boy? What's the matter with you?" And he bit her, and she has to have it treated. Um, and then she goes to her office and Rourke is waiting and he's like, "Let me see it." And Peabody spilled that she'd been injured and Rourke is going to treat the injury. Um and uh they want to fake out the killer and pretend that everything's gone back to normal. So Eve tells Rourke, you need to go back to work. Back to the buying controlling interest of the known universe, one sector at a time. You're not going to move on me if I am lockstep with you or you, Peabody. We've got to give the bad guy time to get her. And they do that. And Rourke gives Feeney a brand new toy that Feeney goes bonkers over. Um, and Peabody and McNabb enjoy some Chinese food and some closeness, and they also make a big discovery in the case. And we have a Marlena flashback, and Nadine does some good work, and I think the last quote of the day, Peabody is forever worrying about her weight. Forever worrying about it. My husband eats all day and he's a twig. I have a single cookie, I'll gain 20 pounds. But Eve says, I like her. Peabody helped herself to a cookie. She kind of reminds me of my grandmother, not the way she looks or lives. Peabody continued with a glance around the room. But she's got that snap to her. Not just that she knows what's what, but like she's always known. Hey, these cookies are mag. So thin you can practically see through them. She took another. See-through food can't have many calories. Eat one or I'm going to feel like an oinker. Absently, Eve took a cookie. He doesn't donate to the Met, goes to the function. They talk about the case. And that is the end of all our quotes for these books for creation and death. I hope you enjoyed it. If anybody wants, leave it in the comments. I'll read the Mavis Trina chapter. There's some plot points in there, but it's a lot of Mavis and Trina, and it's very, very enjoyable. And please don't forget my unboxing tomorrow and Flashback Monday. I could really use some suggestions for that. Please leave it in the Flashback Monday comment section, and my daily book reviews. And tune in next week when they do Strangers on a Train. Remember the old movie? Strangers on a Train. So anyway, that was Creation and Death. Have a good one.